Did you know that approximately 40% of women experience changes in sexual function during menopause? I actually think it's probably way higher than that, but most women don't actually speak up about it. From a loss of sexual responsiveness and desire to painful intercourse and decreased intimacy, these symptoms can have a profound impact on a woman's confidence, relationships, and overall quality of life. Not only that, we are being shown everywhere we look that us women should just be chomping at the bit to have sex 24/7 like our male counterparts. And this is so unfair. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Susan Bratton, the intimacy expert to literally millions, to the show. Susan is a trailblazer in the world of sexual biohacking and regenerative therapies, helping women reclaim their pleasure, enhance intimacy, and extend their sex span well into midlife and beyond. She's the CEO of Personal Life Media, the 20 LLC, and a driving force behind breakthrough solutions like nitric oxide boosters, which we're going to talk about today, libido enhancing botanicals, and cutting edge therapies like Gainswave. Little warning, ladies, this is a little bit R-rated because we are going all in on the truth about women's sexual health, aging, and pleasure. But don't let the R-rated show scare you away because this is a conversation every woman needs to hear. So without further ado, welcome back to the show, Susan. I interviewed you probably 5 years ago. We're not even sure when, but a long time ago. So I'm really happy to have you back.
I was so excited to talk to you today. I love your show. About 50% of the guests are my friends. We're definitely roll around in the same circles of
We do.
brilliance, which is so nice. And I would like to rename the R in rated R for this episode to something like, I don't know, self-realization. Um, Pleasure starts with an R.
How about risque?
I don't even know. Like,
No, not risque.
honestly,
It's too
I'm
much
not
like
even
rated.
sure it's
R-rated.
risque or even racy when we're talking about what it is that we haven't been getting because of the culture that we live in, showing masculine versions of sex and why we think there's something wrong with us because, like you said, we don't wake up with an erection ready to go. We're not ready
Yeah.
to just drop our pants at a moment's notice. That's the male dynamic. We're not dying to be penetrated immediately like our men want to do to us. And then we think there's something wrong with us because we're not running around like a horn dog.
Yeah.
And it's just such a shame. So, this is the thing that I love about coming on a show like yours, Karen. Number one, you have an appetite for real talk. Number
Yes.
two, you are willing to bust a lot of myths and right a lot of wrongs. And you're very pro female pleasure. And
I
so
am.
I think there are still a lot of people who are living in a world where they are very kind of oriented toward what they've learned on porn, and
Yes.
that's what, oh, we want to, be thrown down and we want to be, I mean, choked and, like all this aggressive, masculine, kind of depictions of what sexuality is that are so degrading to women. And
Yeah.
it is so hard to get a voice in the world for female first pleasure and what that looks like. And so thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about it. Some of the things that I was hoping we could talk about were tricks that I use. I want to do some level sets, like this
Hmm.
is actually what women want. Try this on for size. Take off the man jacket and wrap yourself in the warmth of your femininity and your feminine desire. What does that look like? I would like to talk about how to know what you want, even if you've literally never seen any examples of it in the universe, how you
Yeah.
can actually know what you want and have the confidence to ask for it. Because one of the things that I get, so what I've been doing for the last 2 decades is creating passionate lovemaking techniques, writing recipe books for mutually satisfying pleasure because our body's operating system is very much a standard. And women think there's something wrong with them
Mhm.
when they just literally haven't gotten the right information into their body, touch that they needed, warm ups that they needed, all this kind of stuff. A perfect example, there's foreplay and sex. That's kind of the paradigm. We're going to have some foreplay and then we're going to have some sex. Sex means intercourse. And we rush through foreplay like it's an appetizer to get to the main event, which is intercourse. And we as women get shortchanged because, frankly, most of us have been penetrated before we're really even turned on. And,
Yeah.
and intercourse is literally over before we've even gotten our clitoral erectile function completely going. And we wonder why we don't want sex. We wonder why our libido died. Our libido died because the sex was so mediocre that we have no interest in it. So many women are happy to give it up, but the women who are listening to us today, they're the ones tuning in, they're like, if I have a fighting chance, I want to find out what I can do to make it good. I've had glimmers of it in my life. I've had moments where I see through to the shining bright possibility. And I'd like to regain that. I'd like to get it back. I'd like to make it better. I know I could have more than I'm having. And frankly, most women are in monogamous long-term relationships where their husbands want sex. And
Yep.
so they'd like it to not be a chore. They'd like it to not be
Yes.
something they have to check off their list. They don't want to be giving their partner mercy sex because you both know that's what it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what is it that we've been missing? What is it we don't understand? What have we not been told? How can I, in the short time we have together today, begin to give women a level set for not only spending less time on what happened and more time on what you can do immediately that will serve you and your partner, if you're honestly lucky enough to have one, that will really help you start to have a renaissance in your sex life. I think that's the work that we could do together today. And I think it's really just like a series of busting myths, busting misunderstandings throughout this episode. So I'm ready to get started when you are. Where would you like to start? Because we've talked
Yeah.
about this before the show. Where do you want to go first?
Well, I want to just, as you're speaking, I'm thinking we need to have this, which I think you know this, a complete overhaul on women's sexuality.
Yeah.
And us women that are in perimenopause and menopause that are
Yep.
listening to this show, me that's
Yeah.
interviewing you about
Yeah.
this, you're in your 60s, I'm almost 50.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to change this for the women coming up behind us
Our daughters.
and our
Yeah.
daughters.
And
And I have so
granddaughters.
many women asking me about, doing a show about young teenage girls and their hormones, not
Hmm.
sexual health, but hormones.
Yep. Yep.
But right now, my daughter's 18
Yeah.
and she has not had sex yet. She's going to
That
be
you know.
mortified if she ever heard me say this. Her and I
Mhm.
have discussions about this all the time, and we have for years. I've made sure I kept that
Yes.
communication open with her.
Yep.
And I was having this great conversation with her recently where I was explaining to her that what you see on television is not how it is.
That's
And
right.
I said, most of the men nowadays, especially the boys that you're going to school
Yep.
with and that you're dating, are getting their information from pornography.
They
You say,
are.
oh, well, they say that they don't, this guy doesn't say he watched. And I'm like, do not believe that.
Right. That's right.
But I had to go into explaining to her that this is not what it's like and
Yeah.
that, and I want to get her started on the right foot. And I feel like
Mhm.
this is what's going to change the outlook for women and sexual
Yeah.
health is if we can learn it for ourselves right
Mhm.
now, great.
Mhm.
But then we have to pass this information that we're going to learn from you today on to our daughters. And maybe
Yeah.
this is a whole nother podcast episode that we have to do is like how to talk to your teenage daughters and your
Mhm.
teenage sons
Yeah.
about sexual health and moving forward into their adulthood about it.
Yeah.
But I'm just going
I
to just
did
preset that.
What I'm going to do as I go through things with you today is that I want to drop some links to different things because we can't dive into every rat hole.
Yeah.
We've got to stay
Yes. Yeah.
high
Yeah. Yeah.
because we want to cover a lot of surface area. And so I'll drop links as we go because we're meeting people in all different places in this
Yes.
conversation.
Yeah.
So if you have children and you want to talk to them about sex, Nat Kringoudis and I did a fantastic segment for my Sexual Vitality Summit, which I've published at betterlover.com. And it's called How to Talk to Your Kids About Sex. And it's her
That's
perspective
great.
and my perspective as two educators with children. And her kids are a little younger. And we talked about each stage, what they need to know, and ways you can talk to them about it and what to say. So
Amazing.
there you go,
Perfect.
betterlover.com. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So to get
Yeah.
us started,
Yep.
I would just love to start with anatomy because I
Yeah.
think most women don't actually know what the heck is going on in their vagina. Like I heard that
Yeah.
the G spot didn't even make it into the anatomy books until what was it, like 2000 and something,
Well, and the
2004.
location of the clitoris is wrong in almost every anatomical drawing.
You're
So,
kidding.
no,
Okay.
in medical textbooks.
And that
So,
we're very similar to
girl,
men. We also don't know that.
exactly the homologous. It's called homologous genital structures. Exactly. And this is really important, Karen. I'm glad you said it. Let's just start there. We have the same parts arranged in different order in our genital systems. A really good book you can read is Dr. Emily Nagoski's book, Come As You Are, where she talks about homologous genital structures. If you want to geek out on anatomy, which I love to, because the more you know about your parts, the more you can pleasure them. And that's my ultimate goal, is to create women who have sovereign sexuality, who own their pleasure and are able to know what they want, ask for it, and their partners are delighted to finally find out what it is they need to love sex with him as much as he loves sex with you. Because frankly, his operating system's a little more simplistic and it works a little better. Men have some competitive advantages sexually, physically. One is that because they're testosterone dominant and we're estrogen dominant, and I love to be on a hormone show, that they get erections all night long, off and on, which exercises their penis and keeps the blood carrying capacity high so that they don't get ED. And then they wake up with morning wood, and this is all if they're healthy. If none of this is happening for them, get them to a urologist.
Yes.
But if they wake up, they have morning wood, they would like nothing better than for you to hop right on them and take your pleasure, and then make them breakfast. This is
Yeah.
their ultimate life dream, right? But that's not how it works.
No, no.
Maybe on a Saturday when you're first dating, right? That's
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
That's about it.
And those are hormones. That's new relationship energy, but it's hormones that are making that attraction occur. And that wanes within 4 weeks to 4 months. Sometimes you can go as long as 4 years, but that 7 year itch, that's even a misnomer. By 7 years in, very few people are having the quality of sex that they had when they first got together. But you can get it back. Like I said, you can have a renaissance in your relationship. So guys get all this, these boners. Let's just call them boners,
Yep.
erections, things like that.
Yep.
And the problem is that they have what are called fast acting hemodynamics, which means the blood has to flow into the penis quickly because it fills really full, and then that locks off this little muscle and that holds the blood in so he can penetrate. And what's interesting about it is that when it expands with blood, so I'm going to keep coming back to blood carrying capacity, blood flow, because
Hmm.
so many women think it's their hormones. Oh, I should have I need more
Yep.
testosterone. I need estrogen. Yeah, you do. And you need nitric oxide production so that you can get the blood into your pelvic bowl because you have as much erectile tissue as your male body partner does, but he gets an erection within a minute or two, and it takes you 20 minutes. And so, if there's one thing I can tell you on this segment that we're doing today, it's that your job as a sovereign sexual woman is to be patient with yourself. There is nothing wrong with the fact that you have responsive desire. Another thing Emily put in her book, it's a good book to read. She collected a lot
I've
of good
heard
wisdom
about it.
from a
Yeah.
lot of good experts and put it in there and stitched it together. And so that's a worthwhile read. When you have the same amount of erectile tissue as a male body partner, but it seeps in rather than runs in to your erectile tissue systems. You have to wait. You have to be patient. This is why foreplay isn't foreplay. Foreplay is love making too. The pleasure and the stimulation and the turn on and the climbing of the arousal ladder, you have to take giant, hard, heavy lifting steps to get going up the ladder. He has an express elevator.
Right.
And
One just a
so
brush of your fingertip and boom.
one boob, that's all it, just not
Just
even
one,
two
just
boobs.
just a threaten showing them your boob and they're erect.
Don't do it. I'm going to show you my boobs. I'm
So
going to show you
true.
the
Yeah.
aurelia of my nipple.
Yeah.
Oh, don't, baby. I'm
Yeah,
drooling
yeah, yeah,
already.
exactly.
I love
Exactly.
that about our guys. I love that. I mean, honestly, here's the thing. My husband and I have had a hashtag for 33 years before hashtags were invented. We called ourselves Team Sweetie. And we called ourselves Team Sweetie because we realized that we have to band together to support the way the sexual female operating system works to get me to the place where he started. When guys say to me, what's the number one technique I can do to give my women more pleasure? Because they want to give us more pleasure, I say, slow down, turn around, come back, and get us. We're way
Yeah.
behind you because it just takes us a while. So the anatomy is really important. Let's show some pictures for your YouTube channel. This is the male genital structures. He's got a bladder, a prostate, the urethral tubes, the penile structure, and the testicles, and this suspensory ligament, which is the thing that holds up his erection. This is how he can hang a towel off his erection and go, look, baby, I can hang a towel off my dick. So this whole penis is filled with erectile tissue. Everything that you see in a penis, in the blue and the green, all of it is spongy tissue that holds blood. Take this spongy tissue out. And by the way, 50% of it sticks out of his body, and 50% of it approximately goes down and in toward his testicles. So it's double what you see, and all of it is spongy tissue. So now imagine your husband's penis, double it in size, take out the spongy tissue, it covers your hand.
Wow.
Isn't that
That
amazing?
is. Yeah.
And the blood goes zoom, and boom, he's ready to go.
Yeah.
He already started horny. Here's mama. This is what mama looks like. Now, here we go. This is the vulva. The vulva is the outside. The vagina is just the canal where the baby comes out, the menstrual blood comes out, and the penis and toys go in. But all of this is our genital pleasure structures inside and out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about what's here, and then I'm going to pretend like I can peel away the skin. I've got a little picture underneath that will literally show you what all that erectile tissue in his penis, where it ended up when because we all start out as female, when he got about 16 weeks in a hormone bath in utero, his innie went out. That tissue, that spongy cellular tissue, grew out into a penile structure.
Amazing.
So check this out.
Yeah. I think it's
If you're listening
amazing.
to the audio podcast, you got to go to YouTube. What's your YouTube channel called?
Hormone solutions. Yeah. I'll link to it
Hormones
in the show notes, everyone. So you can
Hormone
just
Solutions.
jump right in there.
Mark
Yeah.
that in your mind for YouTube because you're going to want to see this. I had these custom illustrated because Karen mentioned that anatomical drawings are wrong. I had to make them right. So here's what your vulva looks like. The outside is your mons pubis up at the top, your outer labia under the fur on the outside, your inner labia, which come down to a little point called the fourchette near the perineum. Your clitoral hood is part of that inner labia. When you open the inner labia, that's called the vestibule, like the entryway. There's where your urine comes out. This is your urethral exit. It's also part of your G spot. And this is your vaginal opening, which is called your introital sphincter, which is a little round muscle that actually
I'm
likes
just
a,
saying these words in my
I
head.
know.
Imagine saying them to my husband. Touch my
Well,
fourchette.
yeah, fourchette is kind of lick my fourchette
It,
is what I'd recommend.
right, right.
That one loves a light touch. And what's interesting is I love to say introital sphincter like this, introital sphincter, because it sounds so nerdy, but I'm a nerd. So I like
Yeah,
it. And
yeah.
the more we know about all of our little parts, the more we love them, and the
Yes.
more we know how each one of them likes to be touched, which is interesting. So the clitoris, the glans, is this little tip, but it has a shaft. This is our little penis right here. And it
Yes.
has a hood, a covering over it, similar to like the foreskin. And it goes up in between our pubic bones. And then 90% of it is actually inside. I'm going to peel away the tissue and show you what our erectile tissue looks like right under the cover.
Yeah.
So if the vulval skin is the
Which
cover,
is so cool that we have erectile tissue, ladies.
yeah, and
Like
we
we got to
can't
pay
have,
attention to this. It's been it's so taboo, the vagina. This is where right off the bat, this is where we're going wrong. Like, let's just teach our young girls just even about the anatomy because
yeah,
who taught us this? Nobody.
yes. Well, this is what we're fixing, and we
Yes.
are fixing it. So this is the erectile tissue system underneath the vulva, and this is the glands. This is the shaft. These are the arms. These are the legs. They're called vestibular bulbs. This is the G spot. It's a long tube like a pool noodle that you play with. It's a tube that
Through the
surrounds.
urethra?
This is the urethra, and the sponge that covers the urethra is the G spot.
Oh,
It's not a
I did
spot,
not
it's a
know.
long tube.
Okay.
And then here's the vaginal opening. I've made it open kind of circular just because I want to talk about what's inside, but it's actually
Mhm.
closed because it's a
Yes.
sphincter muscle, so it's closed. And then down here is a perineal sponge that literally nobody even talks about. It's not even in textbooks. But our entire vaginal cavern is surrounded by erectile tissue. So if you only focus on stimulating the tip, you never come to a full female erection. And would your husband have pleasure if he was soft? No,
Yeah.
it doesn't
No.
feel that good. You don't get the sensation. You need it to be erect. And
Right.
so we need to get our female erection, our lady boner, I like to call it. And that means all of this tissue gets plumped up. It takes us about 20 minutes to get the blood to flow into all the nooks and crannies. What accelerates it for us and helps us go from not really turned on but willing to try, which is where we pretty much always are. Like,
Hmm.
I'd be willing to try if this works well for, because a lot of times for
Yes,
us
absolutely.
after we make love, we're like, well, that was good. Why don't we do that more? And your husband's like,
Absolutely.
why
Yes. I always
don't
think
we?
that. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. No, no, I don't express that to him, but I do think to myself, like, always when I'm never like, oh, well, that was a waste of time or that wasn't pleasurable. Like, it's always great, but leading up to it, I'm always like, take it or leave it, but I'll do
Me too.
this. I'll get into it. Because once I
Yeah.
get into it, I know that then I am into it. But
Yes. So
it's a big step.
I got tricks to get into it.
Okay.
This is what I want to talk about next. But first, I want to finish on why what I'm saying. Why is this the first thing I'm talking about? Why is this so important? Here's why. So, you know how you've heard this, your brain is your biggest sex organ?
Hmm.
People, and then you ask someone, well, why? And they're like, well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a sex organ. It's like, well, why
I
is
think because we
it?
can imagine like
It's not.
the
That's not it.
no?
No. Isn't this interesting? We think it's like verbal or auditory or whatever, and that's big, but that's not actually it. It's actually that when we are flaccid, let's assume that all that erectile tissue that's in our vulva that is equal to the size of our man's penis, fully erect, twice as big as what you see, all of that's in there. And when it's flaccid, it's very small, it's shriveled. essentially, like your man's penis. Sometimes a guy's penis will just literally, you can barely even see it when it's cold. Like if it's as cold as it is in Canada right now, those penises are up in the body, right?
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
nothing there. That's kind of like us. Now imagine that we got warmth, stimulation, pleasuring, vibration. We had good nitric oxide stores so we could pump a ton of blood down into our genital structures. We got kissed. We got full body touch. We got words of adoration. We got breast play. We got yoni massage. We got sexy music. The sheets were nice. The lighting was good. Our husband had just done something really sweet for us. And we're like, damn, I love this guy. I'm totally turned on. And he was like, take your time. I'm just going to really get you turned on. You don't have to hurry. There's no pressure. We'll get to intercourse if you want to, when you want to. No, absolutely no need to have any guilt. Let's just see where this goes. I want to rub your butt. I want to rub your feet. I want to go down on you if that's what you want, whatever you want, because I love doing this for you as much as you like me doing it for you. So I'm in no hurry, babe. Let's just get you so turned on that you can't wait for me to be inside you. And when you have a partner who takes that approach, they're willing to use some pleasure tools, which I want to tell you about. Remind me to return to
Mhm.
the pleasure tools I'm recommending right now. For yoni massages. And yoni, by the way, I should define that word for some of your listeners. They probably haven't heard it. Yoni, Yoni, like my little yoni. That's the word that I use to talk about our entire female genital system. And I don't even mean just all the parts I just mentioned. I don't even mean, the spiritual aspect. I don't just mean the brain being able to process the pleasure. I mean, it is like your sovereignty, your body love, your comfort, your seat of power, your manifestation machine. It is your creativity, your lust for life. That's Yoni. Yoni is that. She is the jewel in your crown as a woman. And what's
I love
interesting
that.
about her is that, and Yoni is a tantric lovemaking word for, it means the portal in Sanskrit. And so there are a lot of women out there, and some of my other peers in the world are teaching like manifesting with your pleasure and things like that. And that is real. That's real talk.
Yes. Yeah.
So for women who are shut down, have been
Yeah.
abused, have been traumatized, have not found the seat of their pleasure, we are working as hard as we can out here to help heal those things for women. So the brain is the number one sex organ. Thought I'd forget, didn't you? That they don't. ADHD isn't completely worthless. Um,
I
the
didn't think you'd forget.
oh, good.
You are
The
a smart woman. And you're optimized on your estrogen, so your brain is functioning at high
estrogen,
levels.
progesterone,
Testosterone.
testosterone, and oxytocin. I'd love to leave just a second.
Ooh.
I'm watching our
Yes.
time. I want to talk about
Yeah.
oxytocin because it thins your waist, which you get a thick waist in menopause partially because we're not getting enough oxytocin. Oxytocin can really help us thin out our waist, which is so crazy, and regulate our blood sugar, which is so
That
interesting.
is, yeah.
And lower our cortisol. I'm already talking
Yes.
about oxytocin, but I'm
Yes.
going back
Yes.
to the brain.
Okay. Okay. Brain.
Back to the brain. The brain, you touch the yoni. Sometimes you touch it and you say, "Oh, that feels numb. Oh, that hurts. I don't like that." Or, "Oh, I feel ashamed when you touch me there." Or, "Oh, I like to be touched right there." Now know that you can be touched with love in all those places that are pain, shame, and numb, and that can be transformed like a butterfly into pleasure. You need more touch when things hurt, not less. You need
Mm.
to be healed
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
loving touch and good lube. And I
Yeah.
don't like lubes because they have chemicals in them. I like organic oils. They're so much
Yeah.
better. And I like them with CBD in them. because our endocannabinoid system is a pleasure healing pathway. So what's interesting is that your brain is really your biggest sex organ because it's processing the signals. But if you have a flaccid yoni with you're rushed to sex and you didn't get that 20 to 30, if it's been a while, minutes to get turned on, then you are having sex with a flaccid yoni. You didn't get your yoner, your lady boner, your yoni boner. And now sex doesn't feel good because your brain's not getting any signals. Because the more surface area, when that tissue gets plumped up, the more signals go to your brain, and you're laying down neural pathways as you're getting more, it's called engorged, the blood flowing in. When you get more engorged, it gets more engorged faster and easier and better over time. And as it's all touched and played with and pleasured, then it sends way more signals to your biggest sex organ, your brain, saying, oh, that feels incredible. That it's never felt that good before. Oh my God, you touched me with I used to have to use my Hitachi magic wand, the plug-in one. And now you can touch me with a little bit of lube on your finger. And by lube, I don't mean lubricants. They have chemicals in them. I like organic oils. And you can touch me along the edge of my inner labia with the little lightest touch, and I have an orgasm. This is crazy. That's Susan Bratton. Oh my God, she changed my sex life, telling me literally about engorgement and neural pathways and slowing down and my yoner. This is the stuff that we need to know because we're not broken. There's nothing wrong with us. We don't have low libido. We had shitty sex, Karen.
Yes. Now I know there's no right or wrong, Susan, but what about like, is it like, I guess, okay? I don't know what the word to use, but like, if somebody doesn't, if they're not into a lot of foreplay because they get that engorgement faster through penetration. Like that's how it works for me. Like I want a little bit of foreplay, definitely. And I love kissing, and that definitely helps me to get going and get the juices flowing. But I really just like, besides that, for me, it's like, let's just get right to it because then it comes really quickly. And I guess maybe it's like, maybe my ADD or something, but it's like, let's just get the show on the road and let's do this already. Which
So
I know,
here,
like, but just
Mhm.
that's okay, right? Like if that's what somebody prefers and they don't necessarily prefer, because sometimes I would think like I'm broken in that sense of why am I not like wanting to spend a half an hour in foreplay and t having me touched all over, and maybe it's like a little bit uncomfortable or some or vulnerable maybe. Sometimes I would think like it maybe is it that. But then it's like, yeah, but I also just I know what I like, and so I just kind of want to get right to it.
yeah. So you can have $20 and I'll keep the other 80 out of that $100 worth of pleasure if you want to. You have found, so I'm going to counter it because,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
I think you're leaving money on the table, pleasure on
Okay.
the table. You
That's what I
found,
wanted to know.
but this is normal. You're not, this is totally normal. And I'm glad you asked the question because I think that like probably 15 or 20% of women wonder this too. So I love the question. And the thing about orgasms is that they're very, very healthy for you. The more of them you can have them. We are massively multi-orgasmic human beings, and there are over 20 kinds of orgasms your body can have. There's
20?
locations to, yep, there's locations to touch, there's objects of desire, and there are techniques to use. And I'll come
Oh
back. We'll
my.
ballpark
Yeah.
that because we
Yeah.
can't get into everything all
Yeah,
at
no, I
once.
know.
But this is such a good question, Karen. I love it. This is why you have such a good podcast. You are really insightful and you get to the heart of things right away, which I love because that's what I
And
like
I'm
to
an
do.
open book, so
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. So the thing is that you've worn this path, this neural path to your pleasure. You found the path that can get you off. It's a sure thing. It lowers your concerns when you do it this one way. And that's great, but there's 20,000 million gazillion ways to pleasure. And you have this one, but the problem is you're not having all the pleasure you could be having. So you're actually limiting yourself by your own, and you said it, not me, vulnerability around your fear of not being able to get there in a different way. It's a control mechanism. So now you're controlling yourself. When you
Yep.
control yourself, you're shutting off possibility. You're not living into potential. And what's interesting about it is some people will be like, it's good enough. I get there. But you know what? The sex I'm having compared to the sex you're having is like night and day because I have for the last 20 years, and you're close to 50. It took me about 20 years to have all the 20 kinds of orgasms, but I have so much incredible pleasure, confidence, connection, like the kinds of things we do, the things that I have in my sex life, how pleasurable it is, the depth of intimacy. It's just how much I moan and writhe and enjoy and ecstasy, the bliss that I am drenched in. It is worth it to try new things. Number one, it gets a little monotonous just doing the old in and out the same old way all the time. It could be a lot spicier, and it
Yep.
could really turn on your marriage and light up your husband and yourself to try some new things. And when you slow down and you learn how to stay in sensation and actually be with it, it's a meditative practice. It's actually like the theta trance state of meditation. It's meditating. It's calming, it reboots your nervous system. There are so many benefits to it that it's worth trying the practice of
Hmm.
experiencing new ways, new paths to pleasure, expanding your orgasmic palette or potential, learning how to come longer, harder, faster, more intensely in different ways. It's going to be like you're going to feel so proud and confident of yourself to try some new techniques. And that could be as simple as G-spot activation, female ejaculation, and expanded orgasm practice, starting with yoni massages and learning yoni massages using some of the yoni massage tools, trying anal pleasuring, breast gasms, nipple gasms, going down on your husband and having throat gasms from going down on him. You can give yourself orgasms. Like there's just so many other ways. You just
Yeah.
squirmed in your
Yep.
chair. That was a lot for
I'm not even
you.
in a
And
chair
I
and I'm
know.
squirming.
I know. What do you want, a ball?
No, I'm standing.
Oh, you're standing.
A
That's so
yoga
funny.
standing desk. Yeah.
Yeah. And so right, that hit right there for you. You were like, oh shit. What was it? When I said it, what made you get uncomfortable? What hurt?
No,
What was
no, that
vulnerable?
I just like, what? You can get a throat
Uh-huh.
orgasm
Throat
through
gasms.
giving a blowjob?
And
It's
you know
like,
your husband would love to have more blowjobs. If you know what I mean? He would. Of course he would. It feels
yeah,
so
and
good
to
to
make that pleasurable for the woman would be
right. It's not a job.
great.
It shouldn't be. I don't even know why it's called a job. For me, it's a blow vacation. I'm just giving myself orgasms. This is the other thing that I really like is trying new sex positions. Like missionary's great, doggy is great, but I like cowgirl because I can control the slides, the grinds, the tempos, the thrusts. And one of the techniques that I teach couples is something called thrust in time. It's an ancient Taoist practice that I updated to the 21st century man and woman. And essentially, what it does is it teaches you how to do shallow and deep thrusts in a way that is guaranteed to make you come over and over and over again. It helps him have stamina so he can last while you're having orgasm after orgasm after orgasm with him. And that's at thrustintime.com.
Okay.
That's the link to download that. And I think that even though I've talked about take 20 minutes, do yoni massage, and we should close the show with yoni massage, do yoni massage, uh, give yourself the time to warm up, be team sweetie, realize your biology is different than his, go to the pace of the female, not the pace of the male, get out of this frame of foreplay and sex, and have everything, start getting really good at giving oral, receiving oral. When women say to me, "Oh, I don't really like oral," I like, because you never had good oral. There is so many there. I'm going to send you my Steamy Sex Ed video collection of 8 videos that teach 200 lovemaking techniques, because when you and your partner watch that together in bed on a laptop, well, you're nestled in his arms and you're like, "I want you to do that to me." And he's like, "Oh God, I want to try that."
Yeah.
It will give you the education that of the female focused, slow, pleasurable things that we just don't know are even available to us. And I
And
think
I,
most, go ahead.
I was just going to say, 'cause as you're talking, I'm just realizing too that it's so important for us women to change our mindset about what you're talking about, because I think I've had it kind of subconsciously in my brain that to want to try all these different things, these new things sexually and pleasure and slowing down and all of this, I always had it in my head, I think, in the back of my head that you've got to have a real big libido to want to explore these things.
It's the opposite. The
It's the
exploration gives you the
opposite.
libido. Yeah, the
Yeah. And so it's
exploration,
like
yeah,
you got
that's
to
it.
give yourself not permission, but like
Yeah,
understand that you do have to take this on as I'm going to learn to do this
yeah,
rather than waiting for that desire to show up first to go, oh, yeah, let's try all these kinky little new things
yeah.
because that might
And they're
not
not
ever
kinky.
happen.
They're not kinky. That's
No.
not kink.
But
That's
kinky, like
vanilla.
I'm saying that
Everything
in a
I said was
positive
vanilla
way.
sex. No, but everything I said was vanilla sex. I
Okay.
literally haven't talked about kink at all.
Okay.
And I haven't talked about BDSM at all. And I haven't talked
Okay.
about Tantra. I haven't talked about any of those things. I've only talked about vanilla sex on this program.
Wow.
Every single
Okay.
thing I said was vanilla. This is
Right.
what other vanilla couples are doing.
Right.
They're doing it. They're learning how to do it. They're doing it. And here's the
Then I'm
interesting thing.
super vanilla.
Me too. I like vanilla sex. This is
Yeah.
what I like too. I don't need to get tied up and spat. I mean, there are
No.
there are certainly some things that, I try. I mean, I try everything. This is my
Yes.
job.
Yeah.
Literally, it's my job,
Yeah.
Karen. I got to do it
Yeah.
all. But
You
for
do.
me, I like to get lost in co-creative ecstasy. I like to get lost in
Me
the
too.
collaboration of pleasure. I like to fall into my partner and completely let everything go and just be in orgasmic bliss together. So there's something I put together last year that I think might be of interest and a good way to kind of round this out and finish it off. And that is, and you made the leap. I mean, I have really enjoyed talking to you because you are like processing in real time.
I
You're a
am.
dynamic
Absolutely.
processor. And your vulnerability and your aha moments are the guidepost for the other women.
Mhm.
Because if it didn't have that in this conversation with you, it could have been like, "Oh, that weird sex lady came on our show." But now women are saying, "Oh, wait, Karen's like really taking this in and she's having some shifts in this
Yes.
conversation." And that's the modeling that we need from women, being open to being like, "Damn, I would like to try a yoni massage. I would like to try." Okay, tell me how I have an orgasm giving my husband a blowjob, like
Yeah.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
They're some of my favorites too. They are good. They're like, oh, they're so good. So the sex life bucket list, I put it together. It's 48 erotic play dates that you can do with your partner to begin your journey of expanding, growing new neural pathways, getting to your full pleasure potential, feeling comfortable with your body, feeling really, really good about taking your pleasure, taking your time. It trains your husband about how women need them to be, because they want to do anything they can for us, anything they can.
Yes,
They
they do.
just don't know what to do, and we don't know what to
Yeah.
do. It's the blind leading the blind
And we
behind
don't
closed
talk about it.
doors. I mean, there's no catalyst for it because you don't know what you would even say. So
Yeah.
The Sex Life Bucket List is, and it's at sexlifebucketlist.com. And I know you're writing it down and putting it in the show
Yeah.
notes. Thank you. The Sex Life Bucket List it's a free thing that I give away to give people the answer to this, which is how do I start? Okay, you've convinced me I could
Yeah.
do more, I could have better.
Yeah.
I want a manifesting yoni.
Yeah, yeah. And we get shy. We're shy, right? You've been in a marriage for 20 years and you've never spoken about these things or suggested things. You wouldn't even know where to begin, and
What
then
are you
you're
going to
just going
say?
to clam up. So if you have
Exactly.
instructions from somewhere else where it's
Yes.
like, okay, we're going to follow what Susan says here, no
Yeah.
matter what it says,
Yeah. Well, and
like
actually,
it
it's a
helps.
choose your own adventure. Don't worry, it's not even that
Okay.
bad. What you get is you get a download. I've got it right here. You get a download, a PDF that you can download. You print it out at home, and it's an 8-page little questionnaire, if you will, a list of these 48 erotic play dates. Print 2 copies. Give one to your partner. You have one. Sit in bed, crack open the laptop or the phone or whatever you want, and you get a video with the PDFs. And the video is where I walk you through all 48 play dates. I do it pretty quickly and it's not weird. There isn't even going to be any kinky stuff in there, like barely,
Okay.
like the lightest of kinky stuff, like maybe you want to be tied, maybe you want to be tied up or try a blindfold, like really sweet things. It's nothing in there is going to make you go, oh God, I wish we hadn't done this. It's very nice. It's kind of like, it's sexy. It's your first erotic play date where I walk you through them all. I describe them and you mark them down A, B, or C. A is, oh, this is definitely, I want to activate my G spot. I've always wanted to find it and I wanted to have a G spot orgasm. And then B's are, well, it's not for me, but if you want to do a lingerie photo shoot with me, so you can have a little, sexy photos of me, or maybe film each other making love or something. I mean, I'll do it. It wouldn't be on my A list, but if that's what you want, because guys are so visual, they like that stuff. They want to see us in lingerie and things.
Yeah.
I'll do it. And C's are, it's not for me right now. Maybe, never say never. I could get there. And you will, because you will mature sexually. This is personal development with your bodies and love. I mean, it's so beautiful.
It's
And so
great.
then you take your A list and he takes his A list and you compare them. And now you've got your sex life bucket list. You're like, okay, well, where do we want to start? Can we start with the G spot? Can we start with the yoni massage? Can we start with that blowjob
Me.
thing?
Yeah, yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
it is, whatever tickles your fancy. And now you got something to go for. You got something to learn. And almost every one of those dates on there, I have a link or a resource of some kind. I mean, there's a few where they're like advanced techniques that are parts of programs that I sell, but almost not like 95% of it is just I can tell you the next step to start to do that thing. And here's the thing. Remember how I said I write recipe books for sex early in
Mhm.
the show? That's what I do. I give you the step by step and all the ingredients so you can have the experience because your body isn't broken. It just never got the right preparation to
Yeah.
make the feast.
And nor
And
did we
so
learn any of this from anywhere. So
this
what
is
you're
my
going to
job.
teach, what this is going to teach us,
This is my job. Yep.
we get to
Which I love.
learn.
So
Yeah.
there you go. Sex life bucket list. We just tied that up in a nice bow.
Yes, we did. Okay. You're going to finish with yoni massage.
Yes, because I've just got a minute to go.
Yep.
I've
Grab your
got that
toys.
big storm out here, and I got
Yes.
to get down the road to my doctor's appointment. That's what I told Karen. I was like, we gotta finish on time because I bet I'm gonna drive over a few giant logs on my way out this canyon.
Poor thing.
So yoni massage, I want to show you 2 toys. Now, again, you'll have to go back to YouTube for these. And the links are at drivedesire.com because what I found is if I talk about things and I don't tell you where to find them, it makes people frustrated. So I'm not here to frustrate you. Don't worry. I'm here to bring you joy and pleasure. And what I recommend for most couples is start by getting 1 or 2 of these particular vulva massage toys. And part of your new experience is not we're going to have sex, it's you're going to give me yoni massages. We're going to learn how to do this because this is what helps fill all of those erectile tissue chambers with blood for me so that I can get aroused and turned on. And we've got to learn how to do this together over time. And you're going to give me these yoni massages without expecting to get sex, as in penetration, because you got to take the pressure off me or I'll never let you do it. If I think I have to, if it's quid pro quo, you give me yoni massage, then I have intercourse with you, I won't ever lay down and let you do this. And this is what's been keeping me from wanting to have more sex with you. We got to prime the pump. Team sweetie, heavy lifting. This is what we do. 9 times out of 10, maybe 95% of the time, you're going to want intercourse after that. But what it's going to do, and you're allowed, you can have as much intercourse as you want. But what it's going to do is it's finally going to take the pressure off you to go too fast and help you settle in to your body, relax, which is what you need to begin to climb your arousal ladder. And it's going to bring all the blood flow into all that tissue so it expands and sends way more pleasure signals. You're going to start to be able to have orgasms in more ways from different kinds of touch. You're going to become massively more orgasmic. It's not like you're going to have sex and have one orgasm. You're going to have orgasms starting before you ever are even penetrated. And then you're going to roll into having lots and lots of penetration orgasms. Your body can come the whole time. You're just holding her back. Let her go. Take the bit out of the bridle. Get her, give her her head, give her her legs, let her run. She wants to. These two, and the reason I like massage tools and not just man hands is that they penetrate the tissue with a specific, these are vulva massagers, and they penetrate the vulval tissue so that that erectile tissue can get engorged and completely filled with blood more easily. This one is called the Queen, and it's the stronger of the two. It uses a pulse plate technology that really feels wonderful and penetrates. You're going to have orgasms right away from this. I mean, he's going
Wow.
to run this across the hood of your clitoris and you're going to get a clit boner and you're going to start having clit orgasms. I mean, it's so amazing. This is called, it has the dumbest name in the world, which is why you need to go to Drive Desire to find it. You can't Google it. It's called Vibe. And
Okay.
it is super quiet. So if you've got kids in the next room, or you're a highly sensitive person who doesn't like any noise, and the Queen's not noisy. This is just completely silent. And it's a little lighter in vibration for women who are like, I don't want it. I don't need the plug-in Hitachi wand. Like that's too much
Right.
for me. There are women who like a lighter touch, and
Yeah.
the vibe is the one. So get this, use your nice intimate oils
Yeah.
without the chemicals in them. Have your partner rub this all around, across, down in the vestibule. Give him direction. Ooh, hold it there. That feels really good. Just rub real small back and forth, up and down, right in that spot. Oh God, I loved it when you went way up high there. Do that again. Oh, you know what feels so good when you're rubbing across my clitoral shaft on my hood and playing it like a violin string. Oh God, if you put that thing right on my clit right now on the tip of my clit, I'm going to come so hard. Like what? Oh, go in between the labia. That feels good. Go down there in that little fourchette. Oh, I saw what Susan was talking about. That
Yeah.
was really good. Guiding, talking, communicating, feeling, getting in the vibe. Pretty soon, you won't have to say a thing. He's going to know exactly what feels good. But different things feel good on different days too. You can always teach him that all your feedback is just to help him win and that you respect him so much for doing this. That's what he needs. He wants to win and be respected for a job
Yeah.
well done. Make sure
Yeah.
you make a fuss over him for that stuff
Yes.
because
Yes.
that's what he needs. And this is not going to replace him. This is going to get you wanting more and more intercourse and oral pleasuring with him because you'll finally get your lady boner. There you go. Boom. And I want to do like a
Okay.
mic drop. Boom.
Yeah.
There we go.
I love night, everyone. She just dropped the yoni massage thing. She did the mic drop. I could just imagine how many times your name's brought up in the bedrooms in North America.
I hope
So
so.
much, which is fantastic. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to let you go, but I'm going to actually continue on this podcast because I have a
Great.
few things to say, but you've got to go.
I'm sorry I have to
Susan, it
blast
was
off.
a
The storm was so
pleasure.
big today. Yes, thank you, Karen. It's so great to see you again.
Thank
Thank you for having me.
you. I can't wait to have
Last
you again.
last thing I'll leave you with is that if you have any questions for me, your listeners have any questions for me, I answer everybody's emails. Go to betterlover.com, sign up for my newsletter. This is what I send out twice a week is this kind of stuff and sexy techniques. And you can reply to anything, and I get that directly. So it's private, and I will reply to you. So if something didn't make sense or you have a completely random question, I got an answer.
Wow.
So thank
That's
you for having
amazing.
me. Love you bunches. Talk to you
Okay.
soon.
Bye,
Okay.
Susan.
Bye, sweetie.
All right, ladies, I'm going to continue this conversation because I have some things that, well, I just want to go over everything that we've talked about here today, but also just touch in on a few things because I think, we're really nervous to talk about these things. Not everybody's like Susan, where it's just easy for it to be discussed with your partner and come right out and talk about these things. And she makes it sound really easy, but I understand from my own experience and from talking to so many of you that it's not as easy for everybody else. And so I really want to encourage everyone to check out Susan's YouTube channel. I mean, she's got about a bazillion videos, and I was going through a whole bunch of them this morning, and I wanted to watch all of them. She's so dynamic. She's easy to listen to. She's got great solutions that are quick and easy, and she goes through everything imaginable. So check out the YouTube. Just start watching the videos because I think that listening to her and educating yourself as much as you can will also give you more let's see, more of like the what would be the would just help you to do these things, I think, eventually, right? Like the more you listen to it and become familiar with what she's talking about and really understand our anatomy. Like I know that doesn't sound like a turn on, but really understanding your whole yoni anatomy, I think is so key because then you understand the potential that sex has because we're like we've talked about here today, we're not being told all of these things. Who knew that there was 20 different ways to have orgasms? I have on my list of questions for Susan right now, talk about the difference between the three orgasms, which would be in my world G-spot orgasm, vaginal orgasm, and clitoral orgasm. I did not know there was throat orgasms and 19 other types of orgasms. That's crazy. And we're not being taught this. And what we're seeing out there on TV, in the books, everywhere we look, is that we should want sexual pleasure all the time, that we're ready and to go at the drop of a hat, and that it is really, really easy to have a vaginal orgasm just simply through penetration. That is what we see everywhere. There's nothing about what she's talking about out there on TV where we see a man giving a 20 to 30 minute yoni massage and everything else that she talked about. Of course, maybe they can't do that. It's not super sexy to show this on TV, but we need to start talking about it. We need to start teaching our children about it, which I understand can be very uncomfortable, especially if you don't even know what you're talking about. So learn it for yourself and then find a way to teach it to your kids. I've thought long and hard about this with both my children and thought about, okay, well, what can I do that won't mortify them as teenagers, that could still educate them about what to expect and the different ways they can learn about their body. She's linked, I'm going to link to that summit that she was talking about, where she talked about how to talk to your kids about it at different stages and ages. So definitely watch that. That book she talked about, Come As You Are. I have heard more about that book than any other sex book that's out there. I haven't actually heard of any other sex book except for Susan's. But I have can't tell you how many times I've had people tell me what a great book that is. I have yet to read it, which I keep thinking I've got to read it. And then I really would like to have her on the podcast. So maybe I can get Susan to make an intro for me, but I got to read it first. But something like that, like maybe I've always thought maybe this would be a book that I could give my children to read. I have friends that have told me that their husbands read it and they read it and it changed their sex life. And so there's another piece of education that we could use to get more familiar and more comfortable with our sexuality, our bodies, as well as how do we teach our children so that they can go into adulthood with a healthy outlook on sex and sexual health and what they want and get to learn, get them comfortable learning their bodies and what their bodies desire and what their soul desires and their brain desires and all of those things wrapped up into one and how important it is to have that comprehensive outlook, I think, on sexual health. I think it's just something that we were never taught, and I don't think it was ever taught in history. Of course, not like definitely not in sex ed. I mean, that was like the most ridiculous thing in the entire world. And I'm sure it still is in school. So kids are learning from the wrong places. We are learning from the wrong places. I have women all the time talking about, replacing their hormones and they put all their eggs into the one basket and think, well, if I get my testosterone high enough, if I get my estrogen high enough, then I'll have a sex drive. And sure, sometimes absolutely. You replace your testosterone, you replace your estrogen, you get it to a good level in your body in perimenopause or menopause. 100%. I have seen it time and time again bring back a woman's sex drive. But if you've never really had much of a sex drive, is the estrogen and testosterone going to be the answer? Probably not. And so you have to look at other things. Not only that, we change as we age. As we get into menopause, we spiritually change, we physically change. Things are not the same anymore. And it is also an opportunity for us to get to know our bodies in a different way than we had previous in our adulthood. And so if taking testosterone and estrogen don't bring the libido back or bring it up for the first time, even start looking at other things. Start looking at getting that blood flow happening. She talks a lot about nitric oxide, taking supplements to help increase nitric oxide. There's many ways that you can increase oxytocin, just physically touching, kissing, hugging, laughing, spending time with your partner. These are all things that will raise oxytocin, which, by the way, goes down like the rest of our hormones. It is dependent a lot on estradiol. And then as well, we want to get those hormones up. We want to keep our tissue healthy in the vagina. And that, you may need to use DHEA, estriol, estradiol, testosterone on the vulva inside the vagina in order to keep that tissue healthy and keep the pleasure and the engorgement happening. Estradiol, when it goes down, decreases nitric oxide, which is what brings that blood flow into your vagin, yoni, let's call it the yoni because that encompasses all of it. It's what helps to bring that nitric oxide, it helps the nitric oxide production, which then brings that circulation down into that area. And so estradiol, yes, very, very important to keep up. It's what's going to keep your vaginal tissue very healthy because who wants to have sex when it's painful or it's tearing the tissue, which is extremely common for women in perimenopause and menopause. So, ladies, make sure that you're ticking these boxes off. Make sure your hormones stay up. Make sure your vaginal tissue stays healthy and strong and supple and lubricated through topical application as well as systemic hormone replacement therapy. Get that nitric oxide going. There's lots of great things that you can do. There's certain foods that will help increase nitric oxide. There's certain supplements that help, like citrulline, I think it's called, that help with the production of nitric oxide in the body. So there's lots that you can do. And then also bringing in these incredible tools that Susan has shared with us today is a great starting point. I am planning on downloading that bucket list. And I want you guys to do the same. So I'm going to link to all of that in the show notes. Once again, thanks to Susan for sharing her incredible wisdom and energy with us on this podcast because she is a delight, is she not? Like, I could just talk to her all day. I just want to pick her brain for hours upon hours. So I will have to have her back on the show, but you can find her, like I said, on YouTube and on her different websites that she has. So I will link to all of that in the show notes. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And I hope, I hope you have an incredible sex life and what does she call it? Sex aging or sex longevity well into it for the rest of your life. It does not have to end. And I think it can get so much better because, well, we're menopausal. We're wise women. We know what we want now. So let's start talking about it and figuring it out so that our sex life can be incredible up until the day we die, if that's what we choose. All right, ladies, till next week.